Welcome to our family. Thank you. That was more than adequate. It was a blessing. Well, today I've chosen a topic for you: the nature of omnipresence. I think it's vital for us to understand, because we say that God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. What do we mean by that? We'll talk about that. I found in The Science of Mind that Dr. Holmes wrote. He's the author of The Science of Mind and the founder of religious science. He says the highest realization we can have is a recognition of the omniscience, rather the omnipresence of spirit. This will set greater possibilities in motion and will automatically provide a better concept of life. Consequently, those who have had the greatest sense of the divine presence, whenever, wherever it has been, coupled with the definite purpose, knowledge of the universal law of mind, have had the greatest power over the law. This was the secret of the power of Jesus. He says we should daily train our thoughts to recognize the Spirit in everything we do, say, or think. To try any other would be make a complete failure. End of quote. So he's saying a constant realization of the presence of Spirit will provide a sense of a divine companionship. Constant recognition of the divine presence will provide divine companionship that no other attitude can produce. It doesn't matter what else you do, cannot match the full recognition that God is present with you all the time. But not all of us have been doing that, and some of us tried to do it and we are distracted, and we'll talk about some of the distractions. So as soon as we recognize that God is, we can turn to using the law of God. As soon as we recognize that. Too many times we try to use the law of God without recognizing that it is a divine law we are using. And we misuse the law. Misuse means using it for something that's not enhancing to our lives. There's only one true Spirit. On page 422, says, each maintains a stream of the one mind, and anyone contacting this stream may objectify it, means may manifest it. Because of the universality of the medium, the individual stream of consciousness is always omnipresent, whether the one from whom it animates be the flesh, in the flesh, or out of the flesh. He says, time and space are unknown in mind. The past and the present are one. So everyone who has ever felt left out has somehow forgotten who they are and their relationship with the one. Anyone who has ever felt disadvantaged or unlucky or afraid have forgotten that the divine is with them all the time. And that's one of the principal teachings of the Science of Mind. Our first principle is God. And we talk about God like, you talk about your friends. No, we talk about God in the most open, explosive, explorative way when we meet in Science of Mind and we take the foundations class, like we heard shared here today. No man liveth unto himself, in the Bible it says, and no man dieth unto himself. So it's saying that doesn't matter how you try, you can't live to yourself, just for you. And you can't even die without affecting someone else. No man liveth unto himself, no man dieth unto himself. So I would like us all to view ourselves as not localized individuals, but truly universal beings with the creation and nature of the universal essence of life. You see, because it says that we are made in the image and likeness of God. Now, if you accept that, you have to accept that the nature of God is also alive in you. That means you are a universal being too. You ever thought about that? You ever thought of yourself as a universal being, or you thought of yourself as simply localized in your body, having a human experience? Well, can be very enhancing for your life experience if you would recognize that God is present all the time. Now, if we could develop that consciousness to remember that, something magical happens in our life. We say that God is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, but we say we are separated from God. We're born separated, and we are going to a hot place if we don't do what it says. Well, that's not really true, because that's not what the Word said. The Word says that you are made in the image and likeness of God, and God is not going to send himself, herself, into a hot place after you die, because you are omnipresent, just like that one presence. We have devised many ways and opportunities to draw away and to distract ourselves from our own true nature, the nature that can be recognized and infuse us with a sense of life and freedom not yet truly known. You see, we are increasingly challenged in the way that we forget by all the fragmentizing of our lives. We compartmentalize life. We say, this is holy, this is not. This is sacred, this is not. This is church, this is home, this is whatever, and we have compartmentalized our lives and so distracted ourselves that there is only one life, and that life is God, and that life is my life now. That life is the life that you have. So, that increasing of compartmentalizing goes like this. We have a business life. We have a political life. We have a home life, a social life, an acting life. That's kind of a little more subtle. A private life, a spiritual life, and on and on and on and on. Some people even have a neighborhood life. You live in a certain neighborhood, you behave in a certain way, you talk a certain way, and you live with those people in a different way than you live your life in a normal way. Each time our heart beats, something universal happens. I was reading about the body, the functions of the body, when I did this. And it says that each time our heart beats, our blood is circulated through 60,000 miles of arteries, veins, and capillaries and blood vessels. In the average lifespan, the heart beats at 3 billion times over that year, twice around the equator. We replace 98% of our bodies every year. We change our skin every year. A new skeleton every 3 months. Where does all this go? Well, Deepak Chopra said that there are some people we like and some people we don't like. And we are constantly inhaling all the shedding of each other and exhaling it all the time. So if you're sitting next to somebody right now that you don't like, it's kind of late. It's too late. Research shows our body communicates by the use of neuropeptides, and there are peptides everywhere. There are peptides everywhere, neuropeptides, present, constantly monitoring the internal dialogue of your body. The body is nothing but a field of ideas. Do you see how you're made? This magical thing? Our bodies are a universe within the universe. Quantum physics has this. They said, this is written by a physicist that I read a lot. When an electron, in the guise of a possibility wave, intends to move from one orbit to another, it at first behaves as though it were smeared out over a large region of space, displaying a kind of eerie omnipresence in many orbits. It puts out feelers toward its own future stability by way of trying out all at once, all the possible new orbits into which it might eventually settle, in much the same way we might try out a new idea by throwing out imaginary scenarios depicting its many possible consequences. Quantum physics validates what we have been teaching for over 100 years. Can you imagine how exciting that is? If there's one time or space, then all things and all moments touch each other at the same time. All things, all moments touch each other at the same time in the quantum level. Oh, we all know the story about the 100th monkey. That's a principle. That's a principle that if one person discovers something and practices it, it eventually reaches everybody else in the world. How are you sharing your good stuff? How are you demonstrating the good stuff so that it blesses and touches everyone else? Because whatever you do reaches out to an infinite number of space, trying to find a place where it will be received. When you have an idea, guess what happens? It sends out an infinite number of feelers, trying to find the area of your life, time and place, where that thing can demonstrate, manifest at its optimum. Magical omnipresence, your being. Reality at its most fundamental level is just as indeterminate porridge of many possibilities, a teeming flux of hybrid matter waves. This is all quantum physics, validating what we believe about the omnipresence of life. We are one of the life. We are one of the one life. A quote, I wish I had said that myself. Really. So Holmes says the highest realization we can have is a recognition of the omnipresence of spirit. This will set greater possibilities in motion and will automatically provide a better concept of life. As soon as we recognize that God is, we can then turn to the law and tell it what to do. You want to succeed at anything? That's the formula. A recognition of the omnipresence of spirit. In other words, every time you have a thought, if you knew that that thought is an omnipresent breath expressing, because God is omnipresent in it, I think you'll think more of using better thoughts especially about yourself. If you knew that every action, every idea, every intent, every plan, every hope, every dream is an impulse in the omnipresent activity of creation, you could never, never fail at anything. But we fail because we forget about the omnipresence of our own being, of our word. It takes 3 minutes for your word to circle the earth. That's how omnipresent you are. It is the nature of our being to be omnipresent. We really don't own anything. We share everything. Not a great thought. We don't own anything. We just share everything. You're here to share everything. You're sharing your life with somebody. Some in some small way consciously, but in a larger way unconsciously. You touch more people in an unconscious way than you do consciously. So what is this wonderful stuff of which we are all made, and in which we live and move and have our being? What is this wonderful stuff we're talking about? It's something we cannot truly define. But if we walk in the memory, in a constant remembrance that God is always present right where I am, you could never take anything so personal that you feel separated, that you feel dejected, that you feel lost, that you feel you no longer belong. You can't take anything personal when you understand that, because God does not take anything personal. God does not feel separated. Neither does God want us to feel separated at all in any way. The law of mind is our access to the original creative genius. The law of mind is our access to the original creative genius of the universe and has no intent for us other than the intent we give it. So don't wait. Give the law something to do, but in the consciousness, knowing that God is present all the time. That consciousness. The universe is a limitless, unformed substance all around us, waiting for us to try it out, waiting for us to experiment. Use your life as a laboratory. Experiment with the good and the possibilities that you have. I believe we are all evolving beings, and I don't necessarily mean in physical form. I'm talking about the psychological, the emotional, the spiritual, the intellectual. This is we grow from the inside out, not from the outside in. The good news is the concept of omnipresence has a practical application in our daily life and can save us from many pitfalls, leading to a sense of wholeness and well-being. That's what it says in the reading. I happen to agree with that. I happen to feel that that is true because I lived the other way before. I lived the other way a major portion of my life. Now I have gone on the other side. Now I've lived this longer than I have lived the other life. So I'm so grateful to be alive today, to be with you, to spend time with you, to share these thoughts with you, to do the kind of reading that I feel can be beneficial to all of us. The concept of omnipresence. Each time we fail to apply the idea of omnipresence, we risk a breakdown in that area of our lives, and the result is discomfort and suffering. That area of our life is when we have forgotten. When we have forgotten, there is a breakdown. And usually, if the breakdown lasts long enough, there's discomfort and there's suffering. We don't have to do that. We weren't put here to suffer. We weren't put here to pay for any deeds that either we did or someone else in our name did. We were put here to discover our divinity and to express the love of God to all humankind. That's why we're here. When I limit my options, I put myself in competition, and in competition, there are always two results, yes? One winner and one loser. Anytime there's a competition, there's a winner, there's a loser. It's no advantage to be either of those, believe me. You're always a winner, but you don't need the competition. You don't need that. The highest realization that we can have is a recognition of the omnipresence of Spirit. This will set a greater possibility in motion. The greater possibility is waiting for you to discover. Set it in motion by recognizing that God is always present with you. And if you name that all the time, if you want a mantra, that's a good one. That's a good one to adopt, because that one will allow you to hold on to that consciousness and that awareness. That's a good mantra to have. Dr. Holmes on page 58 says, we should work not with anxiety, but with expectancy, not by coercion, but with conviction, not compulsion, but with a state of conscious recognition and receptivity. He says we do not have to drive or push, but we must accept and believe. He says we should then leave everything to the law, expecting a full and complete proof of our faith. He says we should not be disappointed nor chagrined, for the law is our faithful servant. One should treat or pray. You heard the word treatment before. If you've never been here before and you hear the word treatment, it means scientific prayer. It means a prayer that is designed to direct your mind in the flow of the law in action for you. One should treat any given proposition, until he proves the principle, no matter how long it takes. We should treat until we get a result. In other words, he's saying you should not give up praying for what you want. Why? Because you can't give up God. Just like you should not give up the consciousness of the presence of God with you all the time, you should never stop praying about your success, your dream, your love, your wholeness, your beauty, your advancement. All the good that you desire already waits. You're surrounded by it. And you don't see it if you forget. It isn't that it's not there. You can't experience it because you're not conscious of it. You cannot experience something you're not conscious of. It's always there. I want you to trust that word, that it's always, 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 always there. It cannot leave you because God is omnipresent, and so are you. And I love you. Namaste.